fashion, things to wear, possibly faces covered, but more importantly, covering up the bodies. Merch. We have that now. We are very, very excited to announce that Vampire and the Devil have partnered with our friends at Rock and Horror Apparel. They are now taking care of the actual merch, the exclusive merch for the Vampire and Devil podcast, modeled by our very sexy devil right here.
Oh, yeah.
But we have all kinds of goodies to share with you.
Got the hoodies. We got some shirts. We got some tanks coming up. We got some booty shorts. We got all the stuff you want to wear from the Vampire and Devil podcast, thanks to Rock and Horror.
Horns up. Fangs out. All right there, Fangs and Infernos. It is myself and our beloved devil. We have been hitting the dusty trail. We have been cruising around. Con season has taken off, and we are going to talk to you guys a little bit about our most recent excursion just a few days ago as we reappeared at our beloved Fright Reads for their halfway to Halloween event there, my friend, at Marley Station.
Yeah, we went to the Dead Mall, and not necessarily the Dawn of the Dead Monroeville Mall, but we were at the Marley Station Mall, which is pretty much a dead mall anyway. It's definitely very creepy vibes and lots of do not enters and a lot of abandoned warehouses and shops all in there. Pretty much the only thing that looks like it's thriving in there is the food court for some reason. It seems like there's more food court stuff in there. But yeah, it was pretty cool, to go back to Marley Station. I was actually kind of surprised. I mean, the last time we did the halfway to Halloween last year, whenever they announced it again, I was kind of surprised that it would still be at Marley Station. I kind of figured that that place would probably be desolated even more. But it was there, and we had a good time, seeing some cool vendors and all the people that we see. I mean, it's always, like I said, it's always a cool event just because it's more of like a it's not as like a celebrity or star strucken as the original, the other Fright Reads that comes around in the fall and stuff like that. It's more of like the more about vending and just kind of networking and getting your name out there. So it's cool to see like a lot of that. We got to see a lot of the vendors that we've known for a little while and friends and family and stuff like that. We got to see our good friend Chris and did an interview with him and talked to him about all things sequels in his life and stuff like that.
Seriously, all things part two.
Part twos of in his life, like I said, we gotta talk to, your guys, your friends with Matt and now I'm trying to remember the other guy's
Mark.
name. Mark. I know it's an M. Matt and Mark and stuff like that about
Eminem.
yeah, the Eminem crew, and talked about them and things like that. It was cool to see them, talk to them. We didn't get to talk to them very much, but we did get to see our MCW and ACW guy, and we got to see him for a couple minutes, and he's like, "Hey, I see you guys all the time at the events." So like, yep, 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 yep. Little Ellsworth, little James Ellsworth, WWE superstar James Ellsworth.
Oh yeah, the television icon, the
Yeah.
future Hall of Famer.
Yep, that was pretty cool. You know what I mean? And like I said, we got to see some cool stuff. Like one of our guys that we vend and we see all the time, even though he was out of cosplay, so he looked weird. But we saw our
Yeah.
layer print guy, and he even had a second surprise with his daughter doing a music video. Premiere and stuff like that of her doing a cover of David Bowie's "Life on Mars" that had
Yeah.
not only alumni and friend of the show Kid Dreadful, but it also had Mommy Dreadful and Daddy Dreadful on the even on the music video, which was pretty
Who
cool.
let them on set?
Yeah, I know. It was just funny though, because like it is funny though because people who, if you've seen the music video, or if you haven't seen the music video, and it's basically like she wants to go out and do stuff, and the parents are like, "No, you can't do this kind of stuff," and it's like the complete opposite of what her parents are. They'd be like, "Oh no, go see that weird freaky shit."
Yes. No, for sure. And we also had a really cool conversation with Michelle Santiago, who we see all over the con circuit. I mean, she is
Yeah.
super duper awesome. She was the club waitress in Terrifier 2. She's also one of the producers, so got to add her to my little Terrifier 2 poster, which is pretty awesome. Which has got other V&D alumni on there like Mike Levy. So like that is super duper awesome. And she was great. So keep your eyes open and your ears to the ground there, Fangs and Infernos, because we did have a really awesome conversation with her about a potential interview. She's kind of a little bit like Alex Vincent. She's of a different state of mind when it comes to meeting fans and and being out at cons and stuff, where she's less about talking about her career and stuff like that, just in like a public setting. But she was really great to me and Devil. We had awesome conversations. She took a bunch of pictures with us. And so it's really really cool. And we even talked to her at the end of the event about potentially just having just a more intimate setting and a more just controlled environment for a potential interview. And she definitely seemed much more positive reaction to that opportunity, where it's just like, yeah, something out of sight, out of mind kind of a thing. So we would love to make that happen. But regardless, Michelle is so great. She's always, so cool to us when we come across her. But yeah, Chris with layer by layer 3D printing outside of, you know, Papa Emma Chrisitis or whatever you want to call him when he's in his various cosplays. But no, Nicoletta and Kid did such a great job in that music video, and they debuted it, did a little Q&A, and that was really cool. Unfortunately, it wasn't really the biggest turnout when it came to there. There were a couple of authors that I thought were going to be there. When I did a little bit of like back research, I think I just kind of like mixed a couple of things up. But like Jenny Allen wasn't there, who a lot of the Fangs Infernos know that I'm a big fan of the vampire series of books that she's been doing. I thought she was going to be there, but I think I just misunderstood the announcement where she's announced for the big show in October. So I think I just messed that one up. Um, but that was really really cool. And unfortunately, I do think that this situation was a little similar to like the PA horror con that we went to last year. That I believe, if I remember correctly, there were some hitters that fell on that one, because the big draw for that was going to be Nancy, and I forget the other actress's name, but they were from the original Scream movie, as the two girls in the bathroom, and Nancy Ann Ritter, I believe, is the full name. And so unfortunately, they had to drop out on short notice. It wasn't like day of or day before, but unfortunately, it was what that was, like a week or two. Unfortunately, I think
Yeah, it was like yeah, a couple days, maybe like a week, maybe.
maybe a week. So that's always kind of a bummer. And I was also looking forward to meeting Nancy more in an official capacity, as opposed to her popping in when we were hanging out with Mike Levy. Just because she was in a movie that Mark and Matt had done called Blood and Breakfast. So I was just kind of looking forward to having her sign my DVD, just because I have a few autographs on that for just being friends from the camp. And it just would have been kind of cool because like everybody knows, like I like Scream just fine. I enjoy the franchise. I still think the first one is great. I enjoy the second one quite a bit. The third one I kind of take with a little bit of grain of salt. It started getting a little bit too campy for me. And everybody knows though that we love camp, and I love campy stuff. But I think the timing of that third one, as much as we love Kevin Smith and we love Jay and Silent Bob, having those characters spliced into that movie, despite the fact that it was a play off of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, which did a parody of Scream, it like made sense for the fun reference. But for movies that are traditionally supposed to be more slasher thriller serious movies, I thought the third one was kind of weak as at the time, a closeout of the trilogy. While I do think that the fourth one when they rebooted the franchise. I did think that one was actually quite good. I enjoyed that one quite a bit. The fifth one I thought was solid, but it didn't really do that much for me. And then the sixth one kind of burnt me down. And then the seventh one again, where now it's just blood. I feel like it's blood from a stone. And I do need to get fully caught up again in the franchise and kind of revisit it fully, where I just sit down and I just kind of knock out four, five, six, and seven to kind of get myself caught up. Maybe I'll change my opinion a little bit. But Scream in general, I think it's a great franchise and I think it's super cool, but I don't care like that. I care about Hellraiser. I care about, Halloween because of Mrs. Vamp. I care about Friday the 13th because Jason was my first horror tattoo. But like for me, Scream, it's enjoyable, it's great, but it's just another franchise for me. But anyway, back on point, having Nancy there to sign a different movie where she was the star of, yeah, that's cool because that's also something that you and I like to do. We like to be those guys that have like that more obscure movie like, we've got stuff coming up soon that you know, we've met some people and some new opportunities that we're looking forward to meeting where we know that they're going to be signing things dominantly for X, Y, and Z, but we love bringing A, B, and C. So that'll be a lot of fun. But ultimately, yeah, I think the loss of kind of their two main people for an already small, intimate event, because Halfway to Halloween is literally one day for only 6 hours. Like it's a small thing in general. It's really Fright Reads is always dominantly about the vendors and about the authors. That's how the franchise was kind of started, and that's the whole point of it. But you always do want to look for a little bit of that extra excitement factor. Um, and so it always definitely hurts when something like that happens. But again, it was a great time. Everybody was super duper cool. We got to see our buddy David also, who does 3D printing as well, but does much more in the way of like pop culture stuff, where Chris does way more in kind of like the gothy, unique, macabre style 3D printing, where David does much more of the like traditional type stuff. He's got stuff over there for like Terrifier and Killer Clowns from Outer Space and Beetlejuice and little figurines and sandworms and all this kind of stuff. But overall, it was really cool. It's set in a very like intimate way, a bit of the hallway and one main room. So you also don't have to walk very far, but it definitely, is something where there's definitely a lot going on and you do have to circle a bunch. I think you have to circle a bunch because like there's so much to see and sometimes it can feel a little bit overwhelming when there's so many differences of like certain booths of bright color to other ones of course much more macabre and stuff like that, but there's definitely a lot to look at. And overall it's still a great time. Harry is super good to us, we love him to death. And so it's always a consistent series of festivals that you and I always enjoy supporting and promoting.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, like I said, I like that, when it's in the mall. But like my only thing, yeah, like you were saying, the areas. I wouldn't go as far as saying it's a small area, but it's not a very big area too. And it's like
Right.
a lot of vendors, like you said. So it's a lot of like people who are like, you know, visually like, have a really short attention span. It makes it tough because it's a lot to see, it's a lot to take in, it's a lot to see at one time. To me, I wish that, especially because of that mall is, pretty much dilapidated anyway. I'd like to see it a little bit, maybe open a little bit more, so it's a little more spread out. The vendors are a little bit more spread out. It makes it easier to, because I mean, like I said, even though the event, like I said, doesn't, doesn't have hundreds of thousands of people showing up. The people that are there, it still makes it a little bit more tight to kind of get into places and things like that. You're kind of you got everybody with the strollers and all that other kind of stuff. Kind of like, I mean, it
Yeah.
makes it a little bit tight. You're trying to like get into somewhere, or you got to be some, try to get something. But yeah, like I said, I mean, I think it's cool that that little section that they have and stuff like that is really cool. But like I said, I like to see it maybe stretched out a little bit more. You know what I mean? Just because, yeah, like I said, I think having everything kind of camped all into one. Hence the reason why, like I said, when they went to the new one is gone to the to the fairgrounds now. It's a way bigger event. Everything's more spread out. It makes it, even though there is still a lot to see and there's a lot to take in, you can kind of take it in a little bit better because you're not, when you're walking, you're not literally like 2 steps, 3 steps, you've seen four vendors. Where there,
Yeah,
at least, you can look around and stuff like that. It's a little bit more open space. Your mind can not focus on one thing versus focusing on everything that's around you. And that's
sure.
that's the only thing about the halfway and being in that little area is it's a lot to take in at one time. But I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing either. I mean, for vendors, I mean, like I said, it could be a good thing or a bad thing. It's like one of those ones where, like, yeah, like you said, you definitely have to walk around a lot, and make your few rounds and stuff like that, and just kind of pinpoint what sections you want to look at. Because, unfortunately, like I said, when it's spaced like that, you're gonna miss a lot of the vendors, and like, there's a lot of cool vendors that are always there. There's a lot of, like I said, obviously, there's a lot of authors and stuff like that are always there, but there's always a lot of cool stuff. We always like I said, we get our fudge people, and we get our fudge on
Mm,
all the time. You got to
yeah,
see your,
we missed her.
yeah, yeah. We got to see, your vampire book guy, and you got the
Yo,
new one that came out, so that was kind of
yes.
cool.
And I did have the previous one, Mina, where he and I were going back and forth, where he's like, I really think you have this. I'm like, I really think I do also. And yes, I did. So I am completely caught up again. But yeah, we love the Beyond Stoker people. They're so good.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So it's like I said, it's cool. It's like I said, it's always a cool event, stuff like that. And like I said, it's not meant to be. Like I said, it's not meant to be this, big, huge hurrah event. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's like, it's just like a hey, let's just do like a little small event, halfway to Halloween kind of thing and everything and stuff like that. It's just like, but I like it. It's always a cool little event. Like I said, it's, it's, I think it was like $10 to get in. And
yeah,
there's a lot of cool stuff that you can see and you can get stuff. And like I said, there's a lot of cool vendors and things like that. Like I said, I mean, I think the loss of like, the what would be considered the two heavy hitters, which was the Scream Girls, definitely, put probably a little bit of a halter on that, you know what I mean? But I mean, it's still cool. Like I said, like I said, there's a lot of other cool people to go meet. Something that you always have the things remembered, the things forsaken. I mean,
yeah,
booth and stuff like that with the electric chair that you can sit in on. It's definitely it's cool. It's a cool event because it's not only you get to see other stuff like that. Like I said, they had like the music video premiere, and then they have like a little live theater people that were there doing a play, kind of like like I think it was like a monster version of like the Love Connection or something like that. That was pretty cool. It's always cool. I like all of the weird, odd stuff. Obviously, like the last time we had, D talking about his book, his werewolf book and stuff like that. So it's always really cool, like the little like panels and things that they have and stuff like that. So I'm definitely, looking forward to, we were talking to Harry and we were talking about that, when we were talking to Harry about that one author that's never at his books, you can never buy his books and stuff like that. We keep telling
seriously.
Harry, like, why is this guy even here if he's never even at his booth all the time?
I don't think I've ever even seen that guy.
I know, man. He's like elusive, man. He's like the abominable snowman or like the Sasquatch of the
Yeah,
of the bright
Bigfoot.
reads. Have you seen this guy? But yeah, yeah, we got to talk about that. We talked to Harry and stuff like that. We're definitely looking forward to the event, which usually is in September, but this year it's going to be in October. It's like, like, I think it's like the week before Halloween,
Yep.
and that's going to be pretty cool. They got some cool cool people they have right now. I'm super excited because one of the vendors, that's why I even talked about Harry. One of the vendors is Wild Bill's, the soda company people.
Yeah,
And I'm super excited about that. But also, he was also super excited because last time they only had the one food vendor. Now there's going to be like a sandwich person there. There's going to be like a donut person and like a coffee thing and stuff like that. So it's definitely going to be a little bit more variety when it comes to that. But then, like I said, as of right now, they have we have our girl from Tromeo and Juliet's gonna come back
Jane.
again. So Jane, we're gonna talk to her again. You know, they have Zach Ward, who was, you know, from Bad News Bears, Freddy versus Jason, but everybody knows him as Scott Fargus from The Christmas Story. He had yellow eyes. So that's gonna be cool to probably talk to him. And I know they're gonna have an original Dark Shadows character, which is gonna be really cool to talk to her. You know, it's we're huge fans. We talked about it on the show. You know, with us talking about Tim Burton's version of it. You know, whether
Mhm.
you liked it or you didn't like it, you know what I mean. It had its moments of charm, but it's definitely, you know, me and you are definitely huge fans of the original BBC show, you know, of the, you
That
know,
is a inconvenience that I am willing to carry around because I've got, if any of you Fangs and Infernos have ever seen one, I've got, they released the complete series. It's got like 20 discs of of the whole series in a big ass coffin box. And I have it right over there. And I was juggling back and forth with Devil where I was like, man, that thing's a pain in the ass, but it's so cool. Maybe I should just bring in just one of my like traditional like Dark Shadows DVDs because I've got a bunch of stuff. And you were just like, dude, that thing's pretty sick, man. And she might really like seeing one of those things in person. I'm like, you know what? You're not wrong. Done. So that also was part of the plan is to get there and try to knock that one out relatively quick, even though the event is 2 days. It's like, yeah, I still would like to try to knock that one out quick because I'm like, I just don't want to lug that thing around for fucking 2 days, 2 days trying to get it signed and stuff like that. But also, I think it's going to be really cool, and that'll be a lot of fun. But no, Jane is awesome. I reached out to her not that long ago about if she was still bringing stuff involved in her friends like Rosary, like, against human trafficking thing. And she said that she is. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands on a couple more of those and stuff just to support the cause and stuff. Cause I have one, here on our V&D display table, but I was like, you know what? Wouldn't really hate to get one or two just to have one that I, would wear periodically at certain events as just kind of part of the support the cause and love to a friend. So that would definitely be cool. But yeah, late October, 24th and 25th, I believe, for the full Fright Reads, which is definitely
yeah.
going to be cool.
And then we forgot the one girl that's going to be there too that we can kind of take a little bit of credit for. But
Yep.
the speaking of, you know, we're going to have Tromeo and Juliet. There's going to be
You're
another
taking a lot of
Tromeo
credit for
actress.
that.
Yeah,
No,
we're gonna have a Toxic Avenger.
Cindy, yes. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, they could. What we said this to Harry's face. It's like, no, no, we're taking more than just a little credit for that. Of course, not our sandbox, not our setup when it comes to booking events. We are not, we are not paid actors or paid endorsers of it. But for the Fangs and Infernos that aren't, familiar, it's really just nothing more than a kooky, funny story. So we were at Creature Feature, which, you guys already know about. And I was hyped, super hyped, because both of us are big trauma guys and, we're Toxic Avenger people, but like I am like a super Toxic Avenger guy when it came to like really wanting to fill out my poster. Because the one thing about the average conventions, and I'm not knocking anything, but the stuff that they tend to call a reunion usually are based more around bigger franchises or at least bigger name movies. You get 6 or 7 people from Hellraiser or Friday or Elm Street or Halloween. Get it. Absolutely. Super duper understandable. I find that most of the time when it comes to like intimate type smaller movies, um, that even have passionate fan bases, their reunions only tend to kind of be like 3 people. And I understand that some people might be harder to get and stuff, and sometimes it can just be very tricky to get a full-on reunion. But the fact that they had 7 people from the original Toxic Avenger, 6 actors plus Lloyd Kaufman, that was just so cool because that's the stuff that I rarely see. You know, you and I got fortunate when it came to just Romeo and Juliet because it happened to be one Jane, and then they added in Will, who we missed, but then they added in Will to another convention that Tiffany Shepis was going to be at. And then, and Lloyd Kaufman was also going to be at the previous Fright Reads as well. So, our little DVD went from being completely blank to having four people within a span of like 3 months, which is pretty damn awesome, and sometimes like that stuff doesn't really work out that way. But anyway, back on track again. We were yucking it up with Cindy, and she knew we were doing a Fright Reads event and knew that Harry was around and was like, "Hey, I'm interested," because she's an author of her in her own right. And so we had run into Harry and just said, "Hey," and I don't remember if this was before or possibly even after he had found her, but we were like, "Hey, Cindy is very interested in doing fright reads from the trauma camp, and I think it'd be cool for you to go over and check it out." And sure enough, all of a sudden it pops up guest announcement for fright reads, Cindy Margolis, and I'm like, oh hell no, we're taking credit for that one. That's thanks to us. And just because we love, and just because we love another con that's very supportive of us as well, that also did bring her in, it's like, can't take credit for that one, but I'm taking credit for that one too, just because we can. But no, that's going to be really, really cool because also with us being able to do press at Fright Reads, and us just being, Creature Feature was really cool to us, but they don't do the press thing either. So, we couldn't overstep our bounds by trying to do interviews at these people's tables there versus something with Fright Reads, which that's, part of what we do, working with Harry. So I think that's going to be a cool opportunity that if, Cindy has a little bit of time, that I think it would be pretty rad to have another trauma person, on our kill list. So that'll definitely be a cool one for sure. But yeah, that was a cool announcement because there was a little bit of, hey, good job, V&D. You guys did good, spreading out the talent to different events.
Yeah, yeah, even though, like I said, that's the cool thing about that. So that's why I always like this event and stuff like that, especially with Fright Reads and stuff like that with Harry and stuff like that, because he's always just been like a really cool, down to earth guy and stuff like that. And even like whenever we go in, there's like we get in and he's like, "Oh God, who let these guys in? Security! Wait, I gotta
Yep.
tighten this list up a little bit." You know what I mean? A little bit of that. But yeah, that's what I said. We were like a little banter back and forth, and we were joking around about him about that. Like, yeah, we're gonna take a little bit of credit for that. You know what I mean? Just because we're like, hey, man, we were plugging the event, and like I said, then I realized that apparently, like I think on her business card, she's actually from Annapolis area or lives in the Annapolis area now, so she's actually kind of somewhat localish, to Fright Reads in the Baltimore area. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward. Like I said, halfway to Halloween was fun and stuff like that. I always love that event. It's cool. I'm really looking forward to the fall, the fall event and stuff like that, and getting that and getting in the spooky weather and all that kind of stuff like that. So yeah, with the coffee vendor, I'm kind of happy that at least I believe on their normal menu they have hot chocolate. So for me, I'm like, woohoo, I can actually drink stuff because it's like, yeah, it's like even in the September event, it's still pretty decently weather when we do that one. So it's gonna be different, a different vibe for Fright Reads this time being in late October. So you never know
Definitely.
what the weather is gonna be like then. It could be warm, it could be frigid, it could be snowing. We could be making maybe we'll find Krampus, and we'll do some Krampus angels in the snow or something like that. Who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen there?
Who knows? Absolutely, for sure. But so that's going to put a wrap on it when it comes to our, review of Fright Reads halfway to Halloween. Always a great time, as always. Stay tuned because coming up next is our interview with our V&D alumni, Chris Obricki, about everything going on in the land of twos and sequels, and maybe a little swimming under the sea and creating a little splash. So stay tuned because that is coming up next for everybody to enjoy. And then, of course, make sure you guys are checking out Rock and Horror Apparel. They are also the official merch store for the Vampire and Devil podcast. Thank you so much to Mark and Lizzie for their courtesies in doing that. Go to the Vampire and Devil collab category to see everything that we have. And of course, shout out to our other sponsors and partners in the Buffalo Bill House with Chris, the Salem Witchboard Museum and the Baltimore Witchboard Museum with John Kozik, and of course, Twisted Vines with Saren and Chris. And then, of course, absolutely Brutalities. We absolutely love their products and they're so good to us as well. So, again, coming up right now, our interview with Chris Obricki. Horns up, fangs out. All right, there, Fangs and Infernos. As always, we're always coming at you with all kinds of fun times, great interviews, and everything in between. And we're bringing back our guy, our alumnus, our family. We're going to have a little bit more fun right now because we're bringing back the Ringmaster. We've got things to talk about when it comes to Shriek Show. Another one. We've got things to talk about with Crackoons. Another one. And, Devil, what do you say we have some fun?
Oh yeah, man, you're gonna get ready because it's always a good time with Chris. You know he's gonna talk about a little bloody stuff, a little scary stuff. You never know what we're gonna talk about. We're always gonna talk about something fun. Our brother is a huge Halloween fanatic, just like me. So we're probably gonna talk a little bit about Michael Myers and the loss of just recently of the best sheriff. That we'll talk about that a little bit too. With him. But anyway, we're gonna talk about Street Show 2 to start off with. Talk about the Ringmaster coming back.
Absolutely. Chris Obricki, thank you so much, my friend. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to be here, guys. And oh man, we're just going right into it with Shriek Show 2.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, well, definitely been a long gestation process to bring this character back, but here we are. The timing's now, and we start rolling in the fall.
I can imagine that you get pretty busy in the fall.
Yes. But let's see. What can I tell about what's next for the Ringmaster? Well, we're definitely going to bring him back in a very big, scary way. He's going to get a little bit modified in his look, and this time we're taking him out of the woods and we're bringing him to the suburbs this time. So we're going to see what kind of havoc he can wreak in a nice, quiet neighborhood during their annual Halloween festival. So.
Okay, absolutely. I could always picture the Ringmaster maybe looking out from the side of a hedge, perhaps.
Maybe. I mean, there's a little touch of Michael Myers in him, so.
Absolutely, for sure, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, talk about, you said that, obviously you haven't started filming, but have you gone back and with the makeup and started testing a little bit of that? How does it feel going back to that character again and donning on the get up?
We haven't done any new makeup tests yet, but all the things that we need for that are here, like they're ready to go. He's got a new coat that's being made for him in this new one, so it's gonna all be happening like over the summertime when we're gonna do all that stuff. But yeah, we're gonna get to see a little bit more of we're gonna see more of his true side in this movie. So like the first movie was child's play. Compared to what we're going to see this time.
Nice. Absolutely, man. And when it comes to the idea of the Ringmaster as you portraying that character, what was it that you yourself wanted to emphasize the second time around? Was there something in particular about getting another movie and another chance with this character to be like, now I really want to show this or make it stick?
Well, the first movie, he's kind of more like he is like the host of the movie, but also we really didn't get to see him do much at all, like other than just sit there and tell these three stories. And
yeah.
But this time around, I knew going into a sequel, I was like, no, I need to show everybody. Now the thing is like with this day and age with movies, we show a little too much. And we explain a little too much, so I still want to keep him a little bit shrouded in mystery. But at least with this next one, we're going to see, like I said, we're going to see more of like the monster and who he really is inside, and like why he's here, why he's you know why he's so evil and everything. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Nice,
Yeah, and we got another fun thing to talk about. You know, shrouded on the chesticles here of the devil. And you've got a very successful Kickstarter that just wrapped up for Crackoons.
Yes, we do. We start filming it next month, and you know, there's going to be, as you can see from the title, we took the aliens approach with the title, and so there's going to be a lot more Crackoons this time.
Oh, awesome! But going back to Shriek Show for a second, just kind of piggybacking on that.
Yeah, man.
You know, when you're talking about the, with him being a lot more vicious, a lot more, seeing the meat and potatoes of that character. How do you think, because we're both Halloween and Michael Myers fans, how do you think that he would fare against Michael Myers if he had a fight against Michael Myers?
Well, that's some big stakes here, man. I mean, Michael Myers is the king. Like, let's be real here. But I kind of feel like the two of them together would be. I feel like maybe, I don't know if they would necessarily duke it out because they're literally two different forms of evil.
Yeah.
So I feel maybe in a sense they would maybe feed off each other a little bit, because the thing with Michael Myers and the Ringmasters, they're both kind of pranksters.
Yeah.
So, Michael Myers, he uses the pranksterness of like the holiday of Halloween itself, whereas the Ringmaster, he's a former showman. So that's where all his pranks are going to come in. So he's going to use those circus elements and those freak show elements, and he's going to incorporate those into his mayhem.
Yeah. Obviously, because you were talking about the suburbs. It's like maybe you accidentally go into the wrong suburb, and you're like, wait, this kind of looks familiar. This kind of looks like maybe Haddonfield. Oh shit, Michael's going to be coming around soon.
I think the Ringmaster would. I mean, he answers to Noah, but I think the Ringmaster would, out of respect to Michael Myers, he would probably stay out of Haddonfield and not set up any sort of like attraction there.
Yeah. And then obviously, like we were talking about Crackoon too. I mean, obviously, you guys are just getting ready. The Kickstarter, getting ready to start doing it. Can we expect the Crackoon 2 to have the craziness, the silliness, the insaneness, maybe twice as many boobs and twice as much?
It's gonna be the first movie on steroids.
Oh, nice.
So I've read the script for it, and I was dying the whole time I was reading it. Like, just even like right down to the character names in this movie. Like, you guys are in for a treat with this next one.
Because I mean, even that teaser trailer is just freaking hilarious. It's so great. And then anybody who has been on the socials and stuff like that, with them promoting it with the old school, like, kind of spoofs on the movie posters. You obviously you have you get the Halloween one, you've got the Critters one with the big ball. I've been loving those, and those have been.
The Critters one was my favorite.
That was my favorite
too. Critters too.
Talk about like just what that movie has done as far as bringing out that love of like the horror genre, especially being able to see those in the streaming services now, stuff like that. Is it something where before when you've done movies maybe people didn't notice you, but do people kind of see you on the side streets and see some of those ones and everybody, hey, are you the guy from Shriek the Show or Crackoon? Have you had any of those kind of experiences yet?
Not with these two movies. I will say I've had a couple of those experiences with my other performer life as Merman Christian.
Yeah.
So I have experienced that before as that character. So I remember I was in a Little Caesars once, getting like back when they used to have their $5 hot and readies.
Oh yeah.
Big mistake on them.
Is that not a thing anymore?
Not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Oh damn! Because it shows how long I've been not going to a Little Caesars.
I remember I was waiting for one, and I hear this. It was like a mother and her child. They were in the back, and I hear her whisper to her kid, "That guy's a merman. That guy's a merman." So, and I like the fact that it was in a Little Caesars. I was like.
Did the kid go? The kid go. Wait, that doesn't look like Aquaman or whatever, or something ridiculous like that.
That's a whole new level to Hail Caesar there, Chris.
Exactly.
Yeah, And like doing that, during that merman life and your character of the merman and stuff like that, what would he think about in his mind about the portrayal of like somebody like from the boys the deep and how horrible he is to what would be the murder life.
Oh God, oh, the boys, the boys. So I feel like my merman side he wouldn't mess around with the deep because he would just take one look at the deep and be like, this cocky son of a bitch. Like, no, fine, go away. So I feel that's how that would go.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of like your favorite like movie references that people would be in? Are like whether it be Hook or Splash or like
you just named the holy grail right there, Splash.
Yeah, Splash.
Right.
Like Splash. My two top tiers for mermaid films are obviously Splash is number one, and the 13th Year.
Yeah.
So, because that was the first solo movie that had a merman.
Yeah.
So I base my whole character off of both of those films.
No Little Mermaid love?
No, I would say Little Mermaid's number 3.
Right on.
So.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about like when you see a lot of that kind of stuff. It's particularly we've talked about it before with mermaids typically mean women and stuff like that. You don't get the men ones so much. That's why I liked about when people were bitching about it in the Aquaman movies where they had a lot of the mermans.
Yeah.
People were like, "Why are they there?" And I'm like, because. How do you think merbabies are made?
Somebody's got to make some more merbabies.
Obviously, there are there's mermaids and there are mermen. Obviously, you don't know you're underwater as much as you should.
No, we've only explored 5% of the ocean.
Yeah.
So.
When it comes to character building, whether it be Merman, Shriek Show, Krakoon, or all of the other various experiences that you've had. What do you find aids you best getting into a character?
I like to. I guess I would consider myself a method actor, so I just completely like to transform into this role. Like going from the ringmaster into playing Denny and Krakoon, like I did a complete 180.
Yeah.
And I do my research and I look for bits and pieces of other things like in the outside world. I'm like, okay, Denny, like this character would incorporate this. This is what his hair would look like. This is what style of clothing he would wear. Like Denny and Krakoon, I completely based Denny inspired by James Franco and Spring Breakers.
I get so much Post Malone though too out of that also.
Definitely Spring Breakers. I can see that.
100%. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And then, like I said, we were going to talk a little bit about Halloween.
Yes.
Before I get into that, stuff like that. So, recently I seen something talking about where the new Halloweens that came out, like the Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, that there was a storyline that they were going to pursue about, the boy turning into Michael Myers, and they didn't do that. And then, our love of 4 and 5, where Daniel Harris's character was supposed to be that. What about that? Them not going that poly. I think can you talk about, because I think in both those instances, I would have loved to have seen them take on that. What would be the boogeyman role? I was really a lot of us when 4 came out, that Indigo 4, we were expecting Jamie's got the freaking the thing. We're like, okay, she's gonna be, it's a curse, it's gonna be, and then all of a sudden it's like now she's just. They did have that little bit of interaction with her being able to feel him and see him, but I was like, they kind of just wasted a whole avenue that they looked like they're pursuing. And the same thing with the new Halloweens. It looked like that was an avenue they were gonna go to, and they didn't go to it.
The thing with there's so much I can say about Halloween Ends.
Yeah.
First of all, it is not the end of the franchise. It is the end of that trilogy.
Yes.
So if anybody says that it's the end of the franchise, obviously you haven't done your homework on the franchise, because how many times has Friday the 13th had a final Friday?
Yeah, exactly.
Or a final chapter. Like Saw, the final chapter, here we are 3 movies later. So, no, it's the end of that specific trilogy, and Universal's deal with Blumhouse.
Mrs. Vamp would be going off on that movie right now.
Yeah. So, but the problem with there's, aside from the many problems, but what they should have done is they should have introduced the Corey character in the 2018 movie and gradually built up his character arc, so that way by the time we got to that third chapter in that trilogy, that's when he snaps and that's when he takes on the mask.
Yeah.
That's where they fucked up. You don't just introduce this random ass character at the end of a trilogy and then have him be the central character of the whole movie when we've all come here to see Laurie Strode and Michael Myers go at it one more time. They hyped up this big epic showdown, and literally it was like 5 minutes in a damn kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was one of the things that I had always said too, is like, and no disrespect to Halloween, because the whole buildup of the Halloween franchise, especially with these last 3 movies, like there was always that back and forth on like Michael versus Jason and stuff. And of course, with Michael being the original slasher, you know, right up there with like Leatherface, but it's not as much of a slasher. When it comes to like slasher, by definition, it's Michael and then everybody else. But when it came to like kills and being like that top guy, it was often considered Jason for a very, very long time. And the one thing that I had always said is that they did such a good job bringing it back to Michael, taking it and then just literally taking his knife and just stabbing it into the table as like an exclamation point to show that was now his territory moving out. And then the mistake,
this guy over here.
there's that guy. But then that third movie where doing the whole like, is he possessed kind of thing, which had already been done forever ago, even though it was already done in the franchise once, but also done way the hell ago in the Friday the 13th series, is I was like, you gave it back to Jason and you don't even realize you did it. You had it like locked up forever, that Michael with all those kills and everything was the guy, point blank period, with no questions asked. You literally handed it back to Jason and just like punked out, and I was just like, that's so unfortunate. But yeah, it was such a weird thing to have this like confused sudden character launch as like a thing with Michael living in a wall, and then you get your little showdown and then they turn him into a hamburger.
I think what I would have liked to have seen with Ends is like, I would have liked to have seen them like kind of like Laurie Strode relive 1978, the night of 1978, and just kind of had her like, Michael Myers be across the street again, like he was at the Wallace house, and just, especially with Lindsay being being back in the franchise too. So I would have liked to have seen that, like sort of like a newer recreation of 1978, and that would set off, Laurie like immensely, like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would have personally liked to have seen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, like I said, we were talking a little bit off screen, but us being old school Halloween OGs, no disrespect to the sheriff in the original trilogy, we're going to talk. We lost the sheriff from 4 and 5. Talk about the love of sheriff in 4 and 5 versus the old school sheriff.
The amazing Bo Star.
The Bo Star.
God rest his soul. Ben Meeker. I mean, honestly, I for me that was Haddonfield's best sheriff.
Yes.
And this is why. Hear me out, y'all. I know y'all just love Charles Cyphers, and I love Charles Cyphers. Yeah. Wonderful man. When I first met him, gave the best hugs, like he knew you for years. But it's not the man, it's the character. And the problem with Brackett is it's like all he did was really complain and argue with Loomis for 2 movies. Yeah. But then it's and then he blamed Loomis for Annie dying, and saying like you let him out, and it's like no, he escaped. There's a big difference there. Loomis wasn't even there. Yeah. When he escaped. He didn't get there till after he'd already busted all the other patients out of there, in the car with Nurse Marion. But then it's in Halloween 4 when Loomis gets back into town, you got Sheriff Meeker. He's just like, why is Michael Myers here again? And then Loomis tells him, he's like, all right, let's go. Let's get it done.
Yeah, let's get the cavalry in.
Let's get the cavalry in. Like, he wasted no time. Like, he believed this man, like, right off the bat.
Yeah, awesome. And then, like I said, you tell the thing in the Infernos out there because as much as you love Halloween and you're a huge fan of that, talk about the little project that's getting ready to come up with Halloween. I believe you said it was going to be Halloween 4 and 6.
So I am. So as you guys, in case you guys didn't know, there's a company called Onset Cinema. Their hashtag on Instagram is Myers House NC. So Kenny, he's the owner of it. He goes and takes everybody to the filming locations of a lot of horror movies and everything. So for the past like 5 years, 5 or 6 years, he's done movie screenings of out in Salt Lake City, where they've obviously we know they film 4, 5, and 6. So he's doing it again this year. Finally, this year I can go to this event, and so I'm sponsoring the Halloween 4 and 6 uh, viewing party.
Nice.
So at the Halloween 4 is going to be at Vincent's Drug Store, or the store next to it. And then 6 is obviously going to be at the Myers / Storage House, which I had the honor of visiting last October for its 30th anniversary. So
which is funny about the house in 6, because everybody who knows the travesty of Resurrection, apparently no one has lived in the Myers house since the original one. And I'm like, they were living in the houses all the time, man. I mean, he thought he was living right across the street from it.
When I went out there, it literally still looks almost exactly the same.
Oh, nice.
Like same porch and wood and everything. And I remember when I got out there, I was only out there for the day. I had already visited a couple spots from 4 and 5, and then I saved 6 for last. And I remember I pulled up there in my rental car and just pulling onto that street and seeing the Blankenship house and then seeing the Myers house across the street. Like, it's just, I had to have a moment. And I get out of the car and I start taking a couple photos, and then somebody comes out of the Myers house, and I'm like, oh God. And then he was just like, hey, are you a Halloween person? I was like, yes, I am. And I was like, I'm from Baltimore, and I'm only here for the day. Is it okay if I take a few photos? He's just like, oh, well, come on in.
Oh man.
And I got to go in the house. I got to go down in the basement and everything. And oh my God. And I was there for like 2 hours.
Oh, man.
And I had brought my H6 cosplay costume with me on the plane, and I asked the gentleman. I was just like, hey, I got my costume with me. I said, it's really screen accurate. I said, would you mind taking a few photos of me here at the house? He was just like, absolutely, go suit up, let's do it.
Nice.
So not only did I get to go there for its 30th anniversary, but I got to do that shit in costume. Like. Wow. Was so grateful.
Was little Chrissy poking out from the suit during that happening?
Absolutely. It was crazy.
No, that's awesome, man, for sure. And with the filming of everything taking place later this year in October, is that your main focus for the rest of 2026?
Yes. It's like I said, we're bringing the Ringmaster back in a big way. So I got a lot of. I'm tackling this script for this new one. So I got some tweaking I get to do, but I want to have everything ready to go for fall, and I've been stockpiling vintage Halloween decorations, and like we're gonna go for it. I like I said, the Ringmaster's getting a bit of an upgrade in his look, so I have his new coat currently being worked on right now. So we're rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. Same hat
though.
Absolutely.
Devil? I was just going to say, even, obviously those are the projects that are going to be coming out, soon that you'll be working on. Are there any other projects that you're going to be, that you can talk about, that you're possibly going to be working on, or, or other, other projects of yours?
Let's see. Other than Crackoons and Shriek Show 2, I have a couple scripts I'm currently writing. One is a slasher that I hope to one day be my directorial debut. So that's been a slow process, but I jump in when I can and when like inspiration hits me, because you can't ever force that stuff.
Yeah.
And then that's really all I have. I mean, I'm just praying every day to the movie gods that Shriek Show 2 just has a smooth production and it's takes off this time with this character, because I really want to do a 3 also. So.
Is Ringmaster your favorite role and character so far in your career?
I'd say yes. I mean, not to be biased, but it's my favorite role I've ever done. It's not my favorite movie. I mean, it's one of them, but it's definitely my favorite role. My favorite movie, actually, that I've ever done, you can kind of see it sort of on my banner back here, is this one here, Bounty, by local director Kevin Kangas, and that's my favorite project I've ever worked on, still to this day.
Oh yeah, and then the Fangs and Infernos out there. We've talked about it a little bit earlier. If you want to, get a Kickstarter started, we want to do this. We want to try to get Homeboy over here to make a reboot of Splash. We were talking about Splash. Now, if you could remake Splash, would you want to remake it, reboot it as a normal movie, or make it more horror kind of a Splash movie?
You can't ever redo Splash ever. It's perfect, completely perfect the way it is. But I will say, I asked a couple people this today, like if you could make a reboot or a remake of a classic horror, but it can't be like a big popular one, like one that wasn't necessarily a big hit, and you had like unlimited budget, everything, like what would it be? And like my answer was Alice, Sweet Alice.
Oh yes.
So like that movie has so much, but it's already weird and crazy enough as it is, but it just has even more potential to be even more terrifying than
Oh
it
yeah,
is.
for
So,
sure.
of course, I'd have to get Brooke Shields to like have a cameo in it. So,
Yes.
Oh,
even
absolutely.
though she died in the first one.
Put her back in like a cashier or something.
Yeah.
And see
Little
people
cameo.
catch
So
up
maybe she
on
could be
her
the mother this
or
time.
something like that. Like how they slid Adam Lambert into Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
You had to like really catch it. But absolutely, for sure. But Chris, as always, bro, thank you so
Always.
much, man.
Anytime.
You're always so good to us, man, and we love you and so down to always support.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Fangs and Infernos, thank you guys. Make sure that you guys are checking out the successful Kickstarter that's going to bring us Crackoons and the upcoming Shriek Show Part 2. And we really, really appreciate you guys. We got the devil, we've got vampire, but more importantly than that, he is Chris Obricki. And we will see you guys next time. Horns up. Fangs out.